If you remember from long ago, we started a sermon series on the 13th chapter of Corinthians, which is better known probably as the love chapter. And so we'll just repeat a little bit of the beginning of that chapter then. If I speak in the tongues of mortals and of angels but do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give away all my possessions, and if I hand over my body so that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. Love never ends. But as for prophecies, they will come to an end. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will come to an end. For we know only in part, and we prophesy only in part. But when the complete comes, the partial will come to an end. When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child, and I reasoned like a child. When I became an adult, I put an end to childish ways, for now we see in a mirror dimly, but then we will see face to face. Now I know only in part. Then I will know fully, even as I have been fully known. And now faith, hope, and love abide. These three, and the greatest of these is love. The word of God for the people of God. May the Spirit add a blessing for our understanding of it. If you remember, we're talking about love. Where's the younger one? Saturday Night Live? Never seen it? I actually had video of those guys dancing in the cab. I don't want to push it too far. So we're talking about love. And if you remember, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we talked a little bit about the different kinds of love that the Bible has, or they talk about in the Bible. And not every one of these is specifically mentioned in the Bible, but there are examples of them. The Greek has 4 different words for love, and we have 1 different word for love. So it makes it a little difficult. We talk about I love burritos, or I love my wife. 2 different kinds of love, hopefully, right? So a quick reminder, eros is kind of the physical, the sexual, the sensual type of love. Storge is the familiar, the social, kind of the family love. Not necessarily the family love between like mothers and children or dads and children. Maybe more of like the bond like you might have in a close-knit community, close-knit worship or church. And then the philios, which is the mental and emotional loyalty and honor. That kind of goes with the brotherly love, where Philadelphia gets its name. Doesn't necessarily mean like a love between brothers or sisters, more of just kind of more of a friendship. I would love to maybe you could feel between friendships. Then the agape, the one that's talked about a lot in the Bible, and that's the one that God has for us, where it's a sacrificial love, where you give of yourself for the benefit of others. So that's the kind of love that Paul is talking about in the 13th chapter of Corinthians here. And it's the kind of love that he describes with those 15 different things. A few weeks ago we talked about love being patient and kind. And we talked about kindness is kind of love, or kind of is patience in action when you're kind. Paul is writing this letter to the church in Corinth. And Corinth is a city, a metropolitan city that's hugely diverse. From rich to poor, educated to uneducated. A bunch of different faiths kind of going on, kind of a real melting pot, a crossroads of trade routes, and the church that Paul established in Corinth reflects the kind of people that live in Corinth. So it's a wide range of people that are going to church together. And it's a church that has some issues. They're starting to quarrel and argue amongst themselves about who is better, who has the better spiritual gifts, who's smarter, who can speak in tongues better, and they really start to try and set themselves apart by their different kind of gifts. And so Paul writes this letter to them saying, this is how you're supposed to act. And the one chapter in that letter is this chapter in 13th chapter that says you need to have love before anything else. So today we're going to talk about jealousy and envy. And I want to share a story with you first. It's entitled The Stonecutter. There was once a stonecutter who was dissatisfied with himself and with his position in life. One day he passed a wealthy merchant's house, and through the open gateway he saw many fine possessions and important visitors. How powerful that merchant must be, he thought. He became very envious and wished that he could be like that merchant. To his great surprise, he suddenly became the merchant, enjoying more luxuries and power than he had ever imagined, but envied and detested by those less wealthy than himself. Soon a high official passed by, carried in a sedan chair, accompanied by attendants and escorted by soldiers beating dogs. Everyone, no matter how wealthy, had to bow low before the procession. How powerful that official must be, he thought. I wish I could be a high official. Then he became that official, carried everywhere in his embroidered sedan chair, feared and hated by people all around. It was a hot summer day, so the official felt very uncomfortable in the sticky chair. He looked up at the sun, and it shone proudly in the sky, unaffected by his presence. How powerful the sun is, he thought. I wish I could be the sun. So he became the sun, shining fiercely down on everyone, scorching the fields, cursed by the farmers and laborers. But a huge black cloud moved between him and the earth, so that his light could no longer shine on everything below. How powerful that storm cloud is, he thought. I wish that I could be a cloud. Then he became the cloud, flooding the fields and villages, shouted at by everyone. But soon he found that he was being pushed away by some great force, and realized that it was the wind. How powerful it is, he thought. I wish I could be the wind. Then he became the wind, blowing tiles off the roofs of houses, uprooting trees, feared and hated by all below him. But after a while he ran up against something that would not move, no matter how forcefully he blew against it, a huge towering rock. How powerful that rock is, he thought. I wish I could be that rock. Then he became the rock, more powerful than anything else on earth. But as he stood there, he heard the sound of a hammer pounding a chisel into the hard surface, and felt himself being changed. What could be more powerful than that rock, he thought. He looked down, so far below him, and saw the figure of a stonecutter. When we compare our gifts, our lives, and what we have to others, we kill any hope of contentment. And we kill any belief or blessings that God may want to give us because we're always hoping for the next best thing. Obviously, with the story of the stonecutter, he didn't realize the power that he had. He didn't realize the gifts that he had. He was always looking for something else. Jealousy was all over the church in Corinth. They were jealous of the gifts and ministry of their fellow believers. They began to despise their own gifts. They began to wish they had different gifts. They were not happy with what they had. Are we ever like that? Do we ever get jealous or envious and wish we had what other people had? Do you ever wish you had a winter home in the Florida Keys, right? A nice spot you could go to get away from the sunshine. Then you see pictures on Facebook of people enjoying the warm weather right now, and you want to be there with them, or you secretly hate them because they're there and you're here scooping snow once again. But today we experience the same jealousy, right? Sometimes it's jealousy in the church, sometimes it's jealousy at home or at work. We're jealous of those who are given leadership positions maybe that we think we deserve at a job. Maybe we're jealous of people who appear or at least act or say they're more spiritual than we are. Even between ministers, us close to perfect human beings that we are, there are bouts of jealousy, right? We see another pastor speaking on TV, or we see the salary, the prestige, or the size of the church, and we think, oh, they must be doing a better job than me, or I wish I had that kind of power, or that reach, or that experience. And we get jealous, and we get envious. And then we have social media, which may be the best breeding ground that there is for jealousy, right? Because you see most everyone's best life, and you think, man, if only my life was that good. There's an awesome t-shirt that I've seen That's something that says, I wish my life were half as good as your life was on Facebook or something to that nature. But it's easy to get jealous, right? It's easy to think, if I only had this, then I would be happy. If I could only do this, then I would be happy. Jealousy is a sadness or a sorrow due to the success of another. Jealousy causes me pain when someone else feels pleasure. But love is not jealous. It's not in competition with anyone else. It's not hurt when we come in second best. It certainly doesn't feel bad when someone else experiences happiness. But a jealous person wants what the other person has. You want it for yourself. You're too selfish or you're too mad to applaud the success of others because maybe you think you deserve it, or you wish you could have that kind of success. That agape love that we talk about, that Paul talks about, is not possessively jealous. Does not insist on having all the attention for themselves. You see, jealousy is incompatible with love. Love seeks the benefit and well-being of the other, so much so that it is willing to make a personal sacrifice to let it happen. Jealousy would rather prosper at the expense of the other. And then we have the gospel, the actions of Jesus, as a supreme example of love and the ultimate contrast to jealousy, because Jesus sacrificed himself for us. Now some might say, it says in the Bible that God is jealous. If God can be jealous, why can't Christians be jealous? But there is a great difference between our jealousy and God's. You see, God is jealous over what belongs to God. Everything belongs to God. Another way to define jealousy would be an earnest desire. See, God's earnest desire is for what he already has. It's for us to love and to worship and to follow him. So the Bible says God is a jealous God. That's right. God has an earnest desire that we follow God's ways. But we're jealous over something that we don't have, something that we wish we had. So we cannot be jealous like God is. The ugly twin to jealousy, of course, is envy and boasting and being arrogant. Jealousy is wanting what someone else has, and bragging is trying to make others jealous of what we have. Jealousy puts others down, and bragging builds us up. Bragging and envy, you want to impress upon others your great accomplishments to make yourself look good. But love isn't like that at all. Love is trying to build someone else up, to build other people up. Love is humble. The humble, loving person is aware that everything they have is an undeserved gift from God. Love does not carry an exaggerated estimate of its own importance. It does not consider itself superior to anything. You see, pride is kind of the underlying sin in all of this. And pride is pretty subtle. It works in very subtle ways. You start to think maybe you're better because you have a better education or a greater spirituality or any one of those things. And it kind of creeps in unnoticed in your attitude, and it's reflected towards the way you relate to other people. I have all the answers because I have done this or that. So how do we work against our jealousy and being envy? It's easy, of course. I even have a 3-step process, guaranteed to end all jealous and envy. Obviously, we can't stop being jealous. But we can maybe start to notice when we are. The first thing is to simply acknowledge that we do get jealous. We do feel envious. We do want to build ourselves up. We're all guilty of this, right? The first step is to acknowledge that that's kind of the way we're hardwired a little bit. The second is to acknowledge when we start to feel those thoughts. We see an email or we notice an article about someone who has accomplished a great thing. And you maybe think your first thought to yourself, well, I've worked twice as hard as that person. Or I've accomplished something like that too, but they didn't print it in the paper for me, or no one put it on Facebook or whatever for me. Acknowledge those thoughts and say, okay, but we can still celebrate with that person. Second thing is to, or the third thing is to remember, comparison is the number one killer of contentment. I remember that was one of the things, what was it, last April we went to that Weekend to Remember thing, our marriage conference in Omaha. And out of the whole weekend, that was one of the statements that really stuck out to me, is that comparison is the number one killer of contentment. When you spend your time comparing what you have to others, you're never satisfied with what you have. And that works in relationships, and that works in life, too. Paul goes on in Corinthians to talk about some other spiritual gifts, but he says, the Lord gives each of us unique gifts, but they all come from the same Spirit or the same God. One is not better than the other. They simply are different. We wouldn't get along very far in life if we all had the same amount of gifts, right? If we were all stonecutters, we wouldn't have any kind of woodworking, we wouldn't have farmers, we wouldn't have food to eat. So God gave each of us different gifts. God gave each of us different gifts, and they are numerous. One is not better than the other. We are called to use those gifts as God has given them. There was a song that I haven't heard of. There's a line in it. It goes, "My Jesus, as thou wilt," is the name of the song. But I really love the line there as a prayer. It says, "Lord, I submit myself to you. I accept the limits you place on my life in relation to others. I know that you know best. So if I want to excel in some area but cannot do so, I leave that in your hands. If you choose to give what I want to others and not to me, then so be it. Your will is most important. Not my will, but your will be done. I resign myself to your plan as it unfolds perfectly in every detail. I commit myself to the doing of your will of precept and commandment." It's just that easy, right? Well, of course it's not that easy. What do we do when we feel jealous and envious? The biggest problem I see is that it keeps us from enjoying the gifts that God has given us. When we're always saying, "I wish I were better at this, I wish I could do that," we're kind of telling God, "Well, what you've given me and blessed me with isn't good enough. I can't use it, or you can't use me because I'm not good enough." When God is saying, "This is the gift you need. Use it and I will work through you." Comparison is the number one killer of contentment.
I got you each a gift.
No way, Jesus, why?
Well, I just love you guys, so I wanted to get you something.
So nice.
Laura, you first.
Oh, this is so exciting. Oh, will you look at this, a little 8-ounce can of Coke? This is perfect for me.
I looked everywhere to find a gift for you, and this just seemed to fit.
I love it.
Drew? Yeah, your turn.
All right. No way, Jesus. Seriously?
Oh, yeah.
20 ounces of Coke? Yeah, baby.
Woo.
This is awesome. Oh, Jesus, thank you so much. Laura, we gotta go show Richard our gifts. Come on.
Hey, Laura. Is there a problem?
No. I mean, well, yeah, kind of, you know. It's just that every time you give people gifts, you always give everyone else more than you give me.
What do you mean?
I mean, like, I open my gift and, oh, cute, 8 ounces, and then Drew opens his gift and, hello, 20 ounces.
Oh, I know what you mean. Well, that gift is for Drew.
Well, that's what I want. Go get it for me.
Okay, if that's what you want.
Yeah. I got a liter! I know it's 1 liter of God's sweet goodness. Jesus gave it to me. He did? Yes. Okay, you know what? You're going to meet somebody with a bigger bottle, and you are going to be so mad.
Laura, check it out. I got an upgrade. Coke 3.0.
That is awesome!
I know.
Well, isn't that just great?
Yeah. Hey, Jesus, you rock.
Yeah,
Thanks,
what is
Drew.
wrong with you? Why are you holding back your best from me?
I gave you my best. But don't you see what's happening here? You're letting everyone else's gifts steal your joy.
No, Jesus, you are stealing my joy by giving everyone else more than you give me.
Laura, I picked this gift out for you. That's what I wanted you to see.
I don't care.
Until you can look past this, all you're going to see is a can of Coke.
Should be the final arbiter. Coke is better than Pepsi there. Jesus is the one that gives out Coke. Kind of a powerful little message. But we do that all the time with Jesus, right? Why didn't you give me this? Why didn't you make it fair? We're not much different than the kids from the children's sermon, right? We still don't believe life is fair. We know it from experience, but doesn't mean we like it. Now we still complain to Jesus that I need this, you give me this, then I'm happy. And we're always focused on the gift that we've given in comparison to what someone else has. And so we're never satisfied. Our focus is always on what we don't have, or what isn't as good as the other, and we miss the gift and what Jesus has given us and the blessings that we have. So until we can acknowledge the jealousy, the envy, the boasting and the arrogance, until we can begin to work on that and realize that Jesus gives us what we need, and then our job, if you will, is to respond. How do we deal? How do we give back? How do we handle what we've been given? Instead of comparing it to what we don't have, or comparing it to our neighbor or whoever. Comparison is the number one killer of contentment. Amen.